welcome to the channel and welcome to this game of Grimdark Future. Now I'm trying another experiment today, and that's because the writer has been in touch with me and asked me to give him some feedback on how I think the AI rules can be improved. So to that end I'm going to be trying an experiment in how the AI units are activated. Because of that, I'm using armies that I'm pretty comfortable with. So they're fairly basic army lists and they're about 1250 points aside, just over, and very quickly go through them. For the Human Defence Forces, I've got two identical commanders. Each one has got a pistol and an energy sword. Each one of those is going to be teamed up with a combined infantry squad. So ordinarily infantry squads come in units of 5. I've got 2 units of 10. And within each unit, one of them has got a flamethrower, otherwise they're just standard infantrymen. I've got a unit of 3 ogres, because I love the ogres, so I wanted to give them an outing. Each ogre has got a mini grenade launcher and heavy shields. Backing them up, we've got a support vehicle with a heavy flamer and twin shard mortars. And then finally, a battle tank with a battle cannon, laser cannon and 2 heavy machine guns. And that's 1,255 points of Human Defence Forces using version 2.13 of the army list. Moving on to the AI force, this is the ever reliable Orc Marauders. They are being headed up by a warlord. He's got a twin carbine, an ultra claw, an attack beast, and he's got the war ability, which gives him +3 to advance and +6 to rush and charge moves for him and his unit. Now his unit is an orc mob of 10 that's been upgraded with a heavy machine gun and an ultra claw. We've got a second orc mob of 10 that's been upgraded with a heavy machine gun. We've got a combined unit of jetpack orcs, so again a unit of 10, they're just standard as they come otherwise, but there are 10 of them. We've got 2 identical goblin herds, each one with 10 grots apiece. We've got 2 more grots at the back in the form of 2 Goblin Walkers. Each one has got a mini claw, even though it looks like it's a buzzsaw type thing. It's a mini claw and a rocket launcher. And then finally we've got an attack buggy. Now I realise some people think I say buggy weird. Apologies, I'm from the middle of England, currently live sort of North Midlands of England, and it's just the way it comes out of my mouth. But yeah, it sometimes sounds funny when I hear it. So, but yeah, attack buggy. It is tracked, so he gets the Strider special rule. It's got a twin heavy machine gun and a twin rocket launcher. For the purposes of AI, everything that's a goblin is classed as a shooting unit, and everything that's an orc is classed as a hybrid unit. Just going to pause the video here a second. For all that I just said, all of the goblins are shooting units and all of the orcs are hybrid units. I did then spend the entire game using the attack buggy as a shooting unit. So I was going to throw that in here now. The attack buggy is a shooting unit, not a hybrid unit. And that's the way we'll differentiate them when it comes to what they do in their activations. If it's a goblin, it's shooty. If it's an orc, it's choppy. And that's 1,265 points using version 2.12 of the Orc Marauders army list. So they've got a 10-point advantage. I'm going to try something different. I'm going to have an experiment with something I've come up with to see if we can make the AI more random, because the problem with the current AI rules is you can tell which unit is going to, or pretty much work out which unit is likely to activate and then counter it before it activates. So I'm trying to do something that's more random. So what I've done is I've split the army list down into units. So for unit 1, or unit A, we've got the warlord with the orc mob that's got the heavy machine gun and the ultra claw in it. So that is one unit, and that's going to be unit 1, or an ace. Unit 2 is the other orc mob with just the heavy machine gun. Unit 3 is the jetpack orcs. Unit 4 is one of the goblin herds. Unit 5 is the other goblin herd. Unit 6 is the 2 Goblin Walkers, and Unit 7 is the attack buggy. Now I've got 7 cards, numbered ace or 1 through to 7, and that's going to be my activation deck. And the idea is at the start of each battle round, we shuffle the deck, and then when it comes round to the orc's turn to activate, we draw the top card off the deck, and that's the unit we activate. So it's completely random. Now I've got the 4 and 5 of clubs out because the two Goblin Herd units are identical. They're exactly the same. So I'm going to put, when I deploy them, I'll put the 4 next to one and the 5 next to the other, depending on which one we deploy, just so I don't get confused as to which unit is which. I've ordered some miniature playing cards off Amazon, but they haven't arrived yet, and they'll be like less than half the size, so they'll look a little bit, not well, they'll look less in the way on the battlefield, but for now, for the purposes of this, I'm just using full-size playing cards. But yeah, miniature cards would be better, I think. So what I'm going to do is take out the 3, because that is the jetpack orcs, and because they've got the ambush rule, they won't be coming in until the start of turn 2. But then we will simply gather up these cards, shuffle them, and then what I'm going to do for deployment is, let's move these out of the way, starting in the centre, so that if there's an odd number, which there won't be in this particular situation, but if there's an odd number, we'll hopefully come back to the centre. So 1 in the centre, 1 for the right flank, 1 for the left flank, centre, right flank, left flank, and we keep going like that. And then for deployment, what I'm going to do is roll a dice, or a die, singular, and then 1 to 2 I'll deploy a unit from this deck, 3 to 4 from this deck, 5 to 6 from this deck, and keep going until all the units have deployed. And obviously we'll roll off to see who's going to deploy first, either me or the orcs, and which side we go, and, you know, randomly select who gets which deployment zone, randomly select who deploys first, and then we're going to use that method to deploy the units. So this is the terrain that I've set up, and it's relatively simple, relatively symmetrical, and well, I've tried to make it as symmetrical as we can, even down to the fact that fortunately I rolled a 1 for how many objectives we're going to have, and it's D3 plus 2, so we've got 3 objectives, and the orcs placed the first objective, and it ended up being here, randomly selecting into so sector 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So the orcs ended up putting 1 there, I put 1 in the middle because I like doing that, and then the orcs put 1 over there. So we've got 3 objectives in a diagonal line, and again that was completely random, rolling dice and everything. So what we're now going to do is roll off to see who gets choice of table edge. So green for the orcs, grey for the human defence force, and would you believe it, okay, we'll re-roll that. It's going to be one of them days, isn't it? Right, so human defence force gets to choose, so I'm going to choose that table edge over there, simply because that's the side I'm used to filming from. I'm not used to filming from this side of the room, I'm used to filming on that side of the room. So yeah, the human defence force will go over there. So I started off by putting my mobile artillery behind that rock, where it's nicely hidden out of the way, and it's got the indirect rule, so I can shoot anywhere on the battlefield without line of sight. Right, so what I've then done is those 3 piles that we made earlier, I've put those out into the relevant sectors. I haven't interfered them in any way at all. They haven't been shuffled or moved around or anything like that since I filmed that bit. So what we're now going to do is roll the dice to work out which sector we're going to choose first, and that will be 1, so that'll be over here because this is 1 and 2. And the first card that we're going to flip over is Unit 5, and that's one of the Grot mobs, one of the mobs of Gretchen. So that will deploy in here up to 12 inches deep, as close as possible to an uncontrolled objective, or as close as possible to an objective, and they're quite a way away, so they're going to be around here somewhere. And then I'll deploy a unit from the HDF. So there we go, I've deployed that unit of goblins, and I've put the 5 of clubs next to it, because and that will stay there, whereas this card is going to get shuffled into our activation deck. So I've put the 5 of clubs there to remind me that that is going to be goblin unit number 5, whereas the other goblin unit is number 4. So I'm now going to set up a human defence forces unit, and then we'll select the next orc unit. I'll put the ogres over there near objective 3, and then see which sector we're going to activate next for deployment, and that's the centre. So it'll be Unit 2. So that is the unit of orcs that has got the heavy machine gun in. So again, it'll go in the centre section as close as possible to an objective, so it'll probably end up around here, 12 inches in, close to the centre objective. And there we go, and they're set up, ready to charge forward onto objective 1. So then move on to the Hdf deployment. So I've deployed the tank, so it's got some reasonably clear lines of fire onto these 2 objectives, and yeah, I possibly should have put more line of sight blocking terrain in the middle, but hey ho, it's just to prove concept. That's what this game is about, really, is seeing whether or not this works. And I've tried it in one game already and I think it did work, so we'll try again, and this is this game, and yeah, hopefully we'll get a similar result. So let's see which sector we're going to deploy now, and that's a 5, so that's this one. So far we'd have 1 in each. That's good. Well, we've got the other grots over here, so again they'll go as close as possible to an objective. This is just outside the deployment zone, so the goblins will probably end up around here. So there we go, goblins are deployed on that objective, and again I've put the 4 clubs next to it to remind me that that's Unit 4 and that's Unit 5. As I say, when I get the miniature cards through, miniature playing cards, they'll be a lot smaller, probably less than half the size of that, so yeah, they won't look quite as crap on the table. Right, so I'm going to deploy another HDF unit. So I put one of the infantry squads over there with the commander at the back there, and I've set them up there so that they're in cover. And yeah, the problem with the current deployment rules for the AI is you're not allowed to deploy them in difficult terrain, because I think these grots would have valued being set up in this rough terrain to give them cover, but you're not supposed to put them in difficult terrain if you can avoid it. But yeah, that might be something that gets rectified. Right, so the next unit for the orcs, and that's over here again. So next unit will be Unit 7, so that's the attack buggy. So I think what we'll do is we'll tuck that there for now, so it's out of the way, and then the attack buggy will probably go here-ish. Yeah, probably there. You can probably get closer to that objective there than it can over this side of the rock. So there's the attack buggy, and I've set up the last HDF unit, which is that infantry squad over there near the artillery. And then because everything over this side, both of those cards have been deployed, what I could do is just re-roll any results of 5 or 6, but I think what I'll now do is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, rather than potentially doing loads of re-rolls. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, but you could just go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We've done all those, so we'll re-roll any 5s or 6s. But as I say, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. 1, 2, 3. And this is going to be the boss. So he'll go behind the grots, using them as some kind of living shield. And there's no more HDF units, so the boss will go behind the grots. And this one, because this is the last unit to activate, will be the 2 Goblin Walkers. So they'll go behind the boys, or possibly even level with them here-ish. Alright, let's get them set up. Okay, so there's the boss with his boys, and they've got the goblins in front of them. Over here we've got the Goblin Walkers with the other lot of orcs. And then we've got the attack buggy and the other unit of goblins. So what we now do is gather up these, and then we can shuffle them, which I can't do one-handed, and I haven't got the tripod to hand. But yeah, what we'll do is shuffle these, and then when it's the orc's turn to activate, we'll just simply draw top card and that's the unit we'll activate. So for example, this would be that unit of goblins. And then on the next activation we'll draw a card, and that will be the boss with those orcs. And then the next activation will be unit 2, so that's that unit of boys, and so on and so forth. You get the idea. That way I've got absolutely no idea, or well, obviously as the turn progresses I'll get some idea as to what unit is likely to activate next, but we've got a nicely evenly spaced deployment, so we haven't got a big clump of units in one area and any massive gaps anywhere. It's fairly evenly distributed, and we're going to have a random, completely random designation as to what unit is going to activate next. Right, so let's go on with the game. Let's go into turn 1, and the Human Defence Force won the roll-off for deployment, so they'll get to activate first. Now I'm going to apologise straight away and say that you're not going to get the usual steady camera angles that I normally do with setting up the tripod and fixing it in place and rolling the dice. It's going to be very shaky, and that's simply because I'm trying to get through this pretty quick. As I say, this is a kind of a proof of concept, and yeah, if it works I might start incorporating it into the battle reports properly, but for now just forgive the shaky cameras and all of the tat that you don't normally see lying around on the board that I try to clear out of shot when I do the dice rolls. So my first activation is going to be the mobile artillery. That is going to shoot, I think for now we're going to shoot up and over that unit of orcs. So it gets 4 shots, hitting on 4s. That's 1 hit, but it's blast 3, so that explodes into 3 hits, and this will save on 5s. So 1 save, 2 dead orcs. And then for the first orc activation, I have shuffled these, turn over the top card, and it's unit 4 of goblins, so it's them. Now they're already on an objective, they are a shooting unit, so in theory they will move towards the nearest uncontrolled objective, which is that one, and because they're goblins I think it makes sense for them to go around the back, so they're staying out of line of sight. So that's what we'll do with the goblins, because you know it's either that or they go that way round towards some waiting infantry and a tank. I don't think goblins would do that. I think goblins would try and be sneaky. They're going to go that way. So the goblins have moved around the attack buggy, staying out of line of sight, hiding behind this rock, heading towards the nearest uncontrolled objective. So for my activation, again, I don't know which unit is going to activate next, so it's difficult to counter it. So it makes it a bit more like playing a human opponent, because you don't necessarily know what the human is going to do. So what I'm going to do is activate my tank. That is going to move forward and see if we can get some shots in on the attack buggy. So it's moved. It has got line of sight, but just, so I'm going to say the buggy gets benefit of cover. So instead of hitting on 4s, we're going to be hitting on 5s, and this thing's guns are unreliable enough as it is. So we'll start with the main battle cannon, which will hit on a 5. No, yeah, 5. That's a miss, which is a shame, because ordinarily that would have been a hit. The laser cannon in the hull, that's a miss. And then 6 heavy machine gun shots. 1 hit. So this is -1, so this will be a 3-up save for the buggy. That saves. So that was a whole lot of nothing from the tank, which, to be fair, happens a lot with those tanks. I normally bring a psyker so that I can give them the +1 to hit spell, and I didn't in this list. Right, so next unit to activate for the orcs. So the next card is 7, so that is the attack buggy. So again, that will try to get towards the nearest uncontrolled objective. Now this one is an orc, so it's not going to go the sneaky way round. it wants to go forward, it wants to shoot stuff. So it's gone forwards. Now remember, even though we're moving off this objective, we did hold it at the start of the activation, so therefore we count as having captured it as the AI player. It doesn't work that way for me as the human player, but for the AI, if you start an activation in control of an objective, then you continue to hold it. It's not like any of the normal rules for holding objectives. Right, so this thing has got a twin rocket launcher, so we'll fire that in at the tank first. This will hit on 5s because orcs are bad shots. That's one hit. It's AP3, so this will be a 5-up save, which doesn't save, and that's deadly 3, so that'll take 3 wounds off the 12 wound tank, putting it down to 9 left. And then we've got 6 shots from the twin heavy machine gun. Again, hitting on 5s. So that is 2 hits. These are AP1, so these will be 3-up saves. Both of those fail. So why couldn't my guns hit like that? So that takes another 2 wounds off, so that put it down to 7 wounds left on the tank. Right, I'm going to activate this infantry squad. They're going to advance forwards, and the officer, the commander, is going to give them the concentrate fire command. I think it's called concentrate fire, which basically gives them +1 AP to their weapons. It's either that or give them the take aim command, which gives them +1 to hit, and they're normally hitting on 5s, so they would then be hitting on 4s. But I think up against something with a 2-up save, it makes sense to give them the AP +1. So the infantry squad has moved forwards, staying in the cover, and everything is in range of the attack buggy, including the flamethrower and the commander's pistol. So we'll do the pistol first, because that hits on a 4 instead of a 5, because he's a commander. So that misses. That's a good start. And then we'll do all of the assault rifles and the flamer together, because none of them have got any AP except for the extra AP1 given them to them by virtue of the command. So 6 shots from the flamer, 1 shot each from the assault rifles, so 15 shots hitting on 5s. And that's not too bad. I think that's reasonably statistically average. Get rid of the misses. So 6 hits. And this is going to be AP1, so 3-up saves instead of 2-up saves. And that's 1 fail. So it takes 1 wound. It's got 5 left. Again, apologies for the shaky camera angles. But again, trying to do this for speed. The next activation for the orcs will be the boss, who's got a bunch of goblins in the way. Now, of course, if you're using the current rules as written, it would have been the goblins that activated next. But yeah, it's the same kind of problem that a human player would have. If you wanted to move this unit, he would have had to move around the goblins. But yeah, then again, would a human player have put that unit behind the goblins? Yeah, they probably would, but they probably would have activated the goblins first. Hey ho, it's not a perfect system, but it is good and random. So they've moved forward 9 inches by virtue of this guy's war ability, which gives them +3 to advance and +6 to charge and rush moves, and that has brought the heavy machine gun in range of the ogres. So this will be 3 shots hitting on 5s, because again, orcs are bad shots. So that's 2 hits. Now the boss's carbine is out of range, and obviously as are the pistols, but yeah, just the heavy machine gun is in range. So 2 hits. These are AP1. These guys have got 3-up saves with their big shields, which goes to 4-ups. So 1 saves, 1 doesn't. They've got tough 3, so 3 wounds each, so one of them goes down to 2 wounds. So I've assigned the wound to this guy with his fist up in the air, and yeah, they have now activated and moved forwards past the objective and are now in range of the boss with his boys, and they're going to shoot with their grenade launchers, and will fire high explosive grenades. So that's 1 shot each, hitting on 4s. And that's 2 hits. Now these are blast 3, so that will equate to 6 hits. And these will be 5 up saves. Okay, seems that it's a good day to be an orc. So that's 3 dead orcs. And it's dice, they'll swing back my way eventually. And the next orc unit to activate will be Unit 2. So that is the unit of orcs in the middle. So these guys are just going to rush forwards towards that objective, because if they advance there won't be anything in range. Right, scratch what I just said, because if they advance, I forgot they have got heavy machine gun, so they could shoot at either the tank or that infantry squad. So something we're considering is changing the target priority so that your target priority is an unactivated enemy unit rather than one that is simply the closest. Now at the moment the tank is the closest unit, but that's activated. Those infantry have not activated. So I think we'll give it a go and we'll shoot at that infantry squad. Now they will get the benefit of cover because it can only just see half of the squad. So this will be hitting on 6s and everything missed. But one would have hit the tank. And just for laughs, this is AP1. If it had hit the tank, because the tank is not in cover, it would have saved anyway. So yeah, we've activated that unit and we'll go on to the Human Defence Force, and the only unit we've got to activate is that squad. Okay, so we've activated this squad. They have advanced forwards. The flamer and the pistol are out of range, but the assault rifles are in range, and the commander is going to give them the take aim order, which gives them +1 to hit, so they'll be hitting on 4s with those assault rifles instead of 5s. So 9 shots hitting on 5s, and sorry, hitting on 4s. Not that it made any difference, there's no 4s in there at all. Honestly, these grey dice hate me. Right, so these will be 5 up saves. You watch, they'll all be 5s and 6s now. Oh, nearly. 1 dead orc. Okay, so all of the Human Defence Forces have activated. So the next unit for the orcs is 6. That will be the Goblin Walkers. So they'll activate, and then after the Goblin Walkers have activated, it will be the last unit of goblins. So we'll do the Goblin Walkers and then the other unit of goblins. So the Goblin Walkers have advanced and they're going to shoot with their rocket launchers in at the tank. So 2 shots, 1 each, hitting on 4s because they're goblins and goblins are good shots. And both hit. These are AP3. Yeah, AP3, so 5 up saves. Okay, so 1 save, and that's deadly 3, so it's down to 4 wounds left. It's not a good day to be a tank. Right, so that's them activated, and then the last unit to activate will be these goblins, and they are just going to simply, now then, they might be able to advance and shoot at the ogres. I'd have to measure it, and if they're not in shooting range, they'll just simply rush forward 12 inches. Yep, they've rushed forwards 12 inches because if they'd have moved to 6 and advanced 6, then the ogres would have been just out of range. So that will be the end of turn 1. So we'll collect up the activation markers, and then we shall reshuffle the activation cards, ready for turn 2. Now it's the start of turn 2, and the AI does have a unit in ambush, which is the jetpack orcs. So at the start of turn 2, they will come in from ambush, and we're going to do that using the current rules as written, which is we roll a dice, and on a 1-2 it'll come in there, 3-4 over here, 5-6 over here, nearest to an uncontrolled objective, and that is 1-2, so it'll be over here, which is convenient because the orcs don't control that objective, so we need to get them as close to that objective as we can, staying 9 inches away from enemy models. And what I've also done is got rid of those hideous cards and replaced them with a die. So we know that that's unit 5 and that's unit 4. That looks a bit better than the cards, I think. Right, so I'll deploy the jetpack orcs and we will shuffle this card into the activation deck because they will then be eligible to activate, and yeah, we'll take it turn 2 from there. And those jetpack orcs have dropped in right in the Human Defence Forces lines, so yeah, the closest they could get to that objective and more than 9 inches away from enemy models was right in this deployment zone, which is awesome. So yeah, let's go and shuffle the deck. The HDF will get the first activation because they finished activating first. I've chosen to activate my tank first because I don't want it to die, and it's only got 4 wounds left, and if it stayed where it was, it's got Goblin Walkers shooting at it, it's got this thing shooting at it, so it's moved forward 9 inches and it's going to shoot at the attack buggy at point blank range with all of its guns. So we'll start with the main cannon, hitting on a 4, and that's a 1. Laser cannon, hitting on a 4, and that's a 3. These grey dice, I hate them. 4 heavy machine gun shots, hitting on 4s. 3 of them hit. Now you see, that's statistically average, but so far it's still a case of less than half of its total numbers of shots so far in the game have hit. 3 up saves because of AP1, and only 1 wound. I really need to take psychers with my tanks. Right, so that is the tank activated. So I have shuffled the activation deck for the orcs and put the 3 in there for the jetpack orcs. So let's see what goes first. Number 2, so that is that unit of orcs there in the centre. They have advanced forwards onto that objective, and all guns are in range of that infantry squad who are no longer in cover. So 3 heavy machine gun shots hitting on 5s, everything missed, and 6 pistol shots hitting on 5s, 2 hit, saving on 5s. 1 saves, 1 dead, so another infantryman falls to pistol fire. Now you see, this really is a conundrum. I genuinely need to think about what unit to activate next. If we were using the usual AI rules, then it wouldn't have been as evenly deployed, so you could probably work out what unit was going to activate next. So if it's going to be this sector that activates, it would be it would probably be the goblins. I think the goblins are slightly closer to this objective than the attack buggy is. If it was the centre that activates, it would be the Goblin Walkers, and if it was this flank that activates, it would be those goblins. So you could work out which unit is most likely to activate and counter it. But because I've got no idea whatsoever what unit is going to activate next, it's difficult to counter it. And again, if I was a human opponent, I probably would have activated the buggy and tried to finish off the tank, but that's not the way it works. And so at the moment I'm stuck between, do I activate these infantry and see if they can take care of the buggy? This squad is relatively safe, I think, because they can probably get shot at by the 2 Goblin Walkers, and at most they will lose 2 more infantry squad members. However, over here, these ogres are in some dire straits. They've got goblins coming towards them, they've got orcs coming towards them, they've got jetpack orcs coming towards them, and again, potentially this is a target. So I think it's going to have to be something over here, because again, to a certain extent you can use probability, but it would be the same issue if you were playing a human opponent. There's fewer, or rather there's more unactivated orc units over here than there is anywhere else on the battlefield, and they've got a stronger presence over here because there's 3 units in this sector, 2. So yeah, I think it makes sense to do something over here. And I think this is going to be most effective because we can shoot them with the heavy flamethrower that it's got, and also the mortars, and we could even split fire. And because you don't have facings in Grimdark Future, heavy flamers facing that wall, but it can effectively shoot sideways, as it can in several other popular sci-fi war games. So I think we'll activate this. We'll put the heavy flamethrower into them, and then I think we'll put the mortars into them. Probably do most damage against goblins because goblins have only got a 6 up save. Do we clear the lines? I think we try and clear the lines. So let's concentrate everything from this into these. I think that's the sensible thing to do. Try and take out a unit completely. Heavy flamethrower first, going into the jetpack orcs. 6 hits in and 4s. Okay, that's slightly better. Thank you, Law of Averages. So 3 hits out of 4 with a 50-50 chance. And saving on 6s. So 2 dead jetpack orcs. Lay you down, lay you down. And then 4 shots from the mortars, hitting on 4s. And that's 2 hits, again statistically average, thank you very much. And that becomes 3 hits each, so 6. And 5 up saves, because there's no AP on this, there's AP 1 on the flamethrower. So 2 saves, so that's 4 dead orcs. 6 in total, so that will put them down to less than half of their starting size. So they will need to take a leadership test, quality test, which they fail because they're quality 4 up, so they are now pinned. Good-o. So the next unit to activate for the orcs will be unit 7, that's the buggy. Right, so that will continue on its course that away because it's still classed as having captured that objective. That objective is captured, so the only one that isn't captured is the one all the way over there with the ogres on it. So it will move and then shoot at the nearest enemy unit, which will probably still be the tank. Okay, so it's moved and the nearest enemy unit is indeed the tank. However, this infantry squad hasn't activated yet. So again, if we're using the test bed for shoot at the unit that hasn't activated yet, we should shoot at them. But if I was a human player, I'd totally be shooting at the tank. So I think what we'll do is we'll let the dice decide. On a 4 up, we'll shoot at the infantry squad. On a 1, 2, 3, we shoot at the tank. We shoot at the infantry squad. Right. Rockets. 2 hit. 6 is to save. 1, 6. So 1 infantryman dead. And then 6 shots from the machine guns. 3 hit. 6 is to save. Nope, so that's 3 more dead. 1, 2, 3. So we're still not down to half starting size, so no leadership to take there yet. Now again, this infantry unit could fire in at that with additional AP 1. This unit could fire in at that with additional AP 1 or +1 to hit against those orcs. Or they could even move forward and possibly be in range of the Goblin Walkers. Or over here, now that these are less of a threat, they won't be able to activate this turn because they are pinned. The ogres are now free to worry less about them. Well, they could try and finish them off, but I think it makes sense to try and deal with some of this threat. Now, those orcs are going to be out of range and they don't particularly want to move off the objective, because being the human player, I score this at the end of the turn. Although I've already scored it, haven't I? I scored it at the end of turn 1. Yeah, right. So we're just going to shoot grenades, high explosive grenades, at the goblins. Right, should have brought some dice with me. 3 shots hitting on 4s. Well, that's nice and easy, isn't it? Don't have to get any more dice now. Them grey dice hate me. Next orc unit to activate. 5. That is the goblins over near the ogres. Goblins have advanced, definitely in pistol range. 10 pistol shots in on 4s because goblins are better shots than orcs. much better shots than orcs, only 2 missed, and the ogres will get 3 up saves because they're big shields, and 2 fail, so that will finish off the one on 2 wounds. Goblins just shot an ogre to death. That doesn't seem very likely to me. Not just ogres, but ogres with really big shields. Yeah, don't know how I feel about that. Ah well, it's only a game. Going to activate this unit next, and I think we're going to move forwards towards this objective and then take aim at those orcs. Starting things off with the commander with his pistol. He'll hit on 3. These commanders are not very good shots. And then 4 assault rifles and a flamethrower, doing them all together, all hitting on 4s. Okay. And no AP, so this is going to be 5 up saves. See, they hate me. Only 4 orcs died. There should have been more than 4 orcs die. However, there are 7 in the squad, so 4 die. That means 3 left, so they need a quality check, which they fail. So they're going to be pinned until the end of the next turn, or until the end of their next activation. They've already activated this turn. Next orc unit. The other goblins hiding behind the rock over yonder. And they're just carrying on scarpering over this way towards the uncontrolled objective. So the only unit I've got left to activate is that infantry squad, and they're going to try and take out the buggy using the concentrate fire, giving them extra AP1. After they've moved, they're going to try and get over towards this objective. Okay, as always, starting things off with the commander with his pistol, because he hits differently. He'll hit on a 4. Hey, pistol shot hit. And it's AP1, so this will be a 3 up save. And he takes a wound off. Must have hit the driver a glancing blow in the shoulder or something. Right, 3 to go. 3 to go. And then 6 from the flamers, 9 from the rifles, 15 shots, hitting on 5s. Okay, so 4 hits. It's good, kill it. Not very likely. 3 up saves. Oh, 1, 2, 3. It does kill it. Good-o. Excellent. Now, because that attack buggy has been destroyed and it was unit number 7, we'll take the 7 out. What I would have done if it was a unit that had not activated yet, so the card was still in here, if I drew that card, I would just simply discard it and draw another card. Right, so next orc unit to activate is going to be the boss. It's not looking good for these ogres, because due to his war ability, yeah, the boss with his unit of orcs has managed to charge in to the ogres. And by extension, it's not looking good for the mobile artillery either. But one thing at a time. Right, so the boss, he gets 4 attacks, ordinarily 3 attacks, but with his Ultra Claw, but 1 extra because he's got Furious. So these will hit on 3s. They all hit. And the Ultra Claw is AP2, so this will be 5 up saves. Ah, what do you know? Only 1 doesn't fail, so that is 1 wound through on one of the ogres. So I'll just use one of those dice for now, because I'm going to wound dice to hand. And then the attack beast gets 3 attacks, because you have to select 1 weapon to assign the Furious to, and technically the attack beast is a weapon, so we assign the Furious to the Ultra Claw. So 3 attacks hitting on 3s, 2 hits, AP1s, 4 up saves, both save. Right, and then for the boys, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4 in striking range, and one of those is the dude with the power claw. So he will get 3 attacks, ordinarily 2, but an extra 1 because he's got Furious. This will hit on 4s. That's 2 hits. And this one is AP2 again. Yeah, AP2. So 4 attack, no, 5 up. Nope, so that will kill that dude. So that's 3 wounds dealt. And then the other guys, how many did we say we get? Let's have a quick look. 1, 2, 3, I reckon. We're in attack range at the start of the fight. So they get 2 attacks each for their close combat weapons, and 1 extra each because of Furious. So hitting on 4s. That's only 2 misses. No AP on these, so 3 up saves. 1 gets through. So that ogre is down to 2 wounds left. So that is 4 wounds dealt in total by the orcs. Now the ogre will get 2 attacks back himself, hitting on 4s with his shield bash, and 1 hits. This will be a 5 up save, which fails. So 1 orc dies, and this will now be a leadership test for the ogre, which he has to pass, otherwise he will be routed because he's below starting half the starting unit strength. So 4 up to keep him alive. That's a 4. Awesome. Right, so now the orcs have to back off an inch, although they're already an inch further away by virtue of the fact that the dead ogre has been taken away. Right, there's no HDF forces left to activate, so next unit for the orcs is the jetpack orcs. They are currently pinned, so we'll simply remove their pin and that'll be them activated. And then we've got the Goblin Walkers. Now we've got a bit of a problem with the Goblin Walkers because the nearest uncontrolled objective is that one over there. It's currently still held by that solitary brave ogre. This one technically is held by the orcs, because at the start of the orcs' turn, because it's the AI rules, they hold that objective. But it's obviously going to be contested at the end of the turn by that infantry squad. This objective over here is technically still controlled by the orcs because they held it and they moved off it, so it still counts as them, and we haven't got onto it yet as the human defense force. But again, obviously in the next turn we will do. That tank can easily get onto that objective, or the infantry squad can rush onto it. So it comes down to rules as written says these goblins go that way. Common sense says actually they think about heading this way, or they charge that squad there. They're easily within charge range, but they're a shooting unit, so they can't really charge. So I'm umming and ahhing as to what the best course of action to do is, because equally there's only 3 orcs on that objective. They can easily be shot off it by what's left of that infantry squad. So I suppose they would do what's in front of them. I think that makes sense for the goblins. They would clank forward 6 inches and then shoot at that infantry squad. Let's do it that way. I think that's sensible. That's what they're looking at. That's what they've been doing all battle so far, is concentrating on that objective. So let's do that. Right, so they've advanced 2 rockets shooting at the infantry. 1 hit, needs a 6 to save, doesn't save, another dead infantryman. Don't worry, I do remember the morale check in a minute. Right, so at the end of turn 2, I think it's safe to say this is definitely a more closely run thing than any of the normal AI games that I play. We've got a tank that's only on 4 wounds left and has narrowly avoided destruction, I think. We're really struggling in the centre. We are definitely struggling on this flank. Now, I think that's a combination of factors, partly because I was outnumbered in terms of numbers of units, and partly because I can't predict what they're going to do. So I think that currently this this card-based activation system is working. So going into turn 3, I'll shuffle the activation deck, and again the HDF finished activating first in turn 2, so they will get first activation in turn 3. Right, before we get started properly on turn 3, I just realised this infantry squad is now at less than half its starting strength, so they need a morale check. So 4 up for quality of the commander. That's a 3, so they are pinned. Okay, so starting turn 3 properly now. If this was regular AI rules for activation, the unit that is most likely to activate first would be the boss, because that is the unit that's closest to an uncontrolled objective. And I can't remember what we decided for this, whether this was 1, 2, but when we did deployment, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So there's nothing in this zone, 5, 6, so then we would go clockwise back to this one. So this is the one that would be likely to activate first. Alternatively, it would be the Goblin Walkers, so one of those two. But because of the way we're doing it with the cards, I've got no idea which unit will activate next. Over here, we probably need to be getting something onto that objective, either the tank or the infantry. I'm not sure which would be the better option. And over here, yeah, we're just in dire straits over here. So I think what I will do is, while I still can, I'm going to activate the ogre, who is going to simply move away and consolidate his position onto his objective and lob a grenade in at those goblins. I think that's what we'll do. Or we could, yeah, actually, makes sense to try and target those orcs. But the goblins are more likely to run away. I'll do one of those two things. The goblin is the ogre is going to activate. It's going to move backwards, and then I'll try and work out which makes sense to be the target. These guys I'm not quite so worried about, because there's 4 of them. I'll tell you what, we'll activate the gun, because that can put the heavy flamer into them, which is likely to kill at least 1, which means they'll then need to take a leadership check, and then we'll put the mortars into those orcs and see if we can't make them fail a leadership test as well, because the goblins I'm really not scared of. I don't think I am anyway. Yeah, so that's what we'll do. Activate this, flamer into them, mortars into them. Can't beat a good bit of decisive leadership, can you? Or can you? So heavy flamethrower first, going into the jetpack orcs. 6 shots hitting on 4s. That's 2 hits. Saving on 6s. Okay, so that's 1 save, so 1 dies, so they take a leadership test, which they pass. These grey dice are so treacherous. They roll well for the orcs and crap for me. Maybe it's because they are actually orc dice, because my orcs are painted grey. So yeah, maybe they're traitors. Anyway, so 1 dead orc. Right, 4 shots from the mortars going into those orcs. I've declared it, so I'd better do it. Okay, 3 hits. Look at those 6s now. That's a little bit better. So that would be 9 hits in total. Right. Saving on 5s. Okay, so that is, how many orcs are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regular orcs. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regular orcs dead, and 1 wound on the war boss. So that will be a leadership test for the orcs. Dare I use a grey dice, or should I use a green one? He passes, so he's still good to fight, but the rest of the orcs are dead, and he's on 2 wounds left. 2 wounds? Tough 3, I think. Yeah, tough 3, so he's on 2 wounds left. Right, moment of truth, which is going to be the first orc unit to activate. Please be the one that's pinned. It's the goblins over by the war boss. So the goblins have advanced onto objective 3, and we'll shoot at the ogre because that is the nearest unit that has not activated to an objective, and it's also the nearest enemy unit, full stop. So they'll try and polish it off. 10 shots hitting on 4s, and they have killed an ogre before with 2 wounds left. Okay, so 6 hits, saving on 3s. 1 fail. The ogre's alive and 1 wound left. I think I need to activate that ogre while I still can. He is going to fire an anti-tank grenade into the war boss, because if this hits and it wounds, it will kill him because it's deadly 3. But it's only 1 shot hitting on a 4. Come on, grey dice, don't suck for me now. It hits. AP 1. So he's got 4 up armor save. This will be a 5 up save. It kills him. That is a dead Orc Warlord. And the ogre bellows out triumphantly as that anti-tank grenade explodes in the Warlord's face. Cool. Okay, so things not looking quite so dire over there anymore, although these jetpack orcs have still got to activate. So let's find out which unit isn't it going to activate next for the orcs. That's the war boss, he's dead, so we'll take that out. That is the unit of orcs in the centre, and they are pinned, so we will remove their pin. Now I know the AI rules say that you remove pins at the end of a turn, but obviously we're using slightly different activation rules, so we're going to do it as and when they activate. So for my activation, there's nothing I can do about these because this is activated, that's activated. Do I activate them and unpin them, or do I get the tank to try and do some damage to the Goblin Walkers? I'll let you know after I've had a think. I've activated the tank, so it's moved, and I want to do as much damage to those Goblin Walkers as possible. I did think about splitting fire and having the heavy machine guns go into those orcs, but they've already activated, they're not a threat for the rest of this turn. Whereas those Goblin Walkers, I could do with taking at least one of them out, so I'm going to put everything into them. However, there's an orc unit between them, and also these guys are kind of in the line of fire, so I am going to say they get the benefit of cover, which means I'm back to hitting on 5s. Really, really, really must bring a psyker whenever I use these tanks. Right, so main cannon hitting on a 5. Come on, the orcs can do it, surely you can. Nope, but if they hadn't had cover, that would have hit. Laser cannon hitting on a 5. Okay, these dice are really taking the... yeah. 6 machine gun shots hitting on 5s. 2 hit. You see, that's statistically average, I can cope with that. Right, 3 up saves, not that it's going to make much difference. 1 wound. They're tough 6, so we'll put it on that one. We took 1 wound off a Goblin Walker. Oh well, it's only a game. Right, tanks activated. It's the jetpack boys activating next. Okay, so these jetpack orcs are going to charge the ogre because it is currently contesting that objective, and it's the only one the orcs don't control. They control this one because this infantry squad is currently pinned, so can't contest it, and they still control that one, and there's no HDF forces anywhere near it. So yeah, the ogre is the nearest unit, and it's the nearest one to an uncontrolled objective, so they're going to charge the ogre. 2 attacks each plus 1 extra each for Furious, so 9 attacks hitting on 4s. Ooh, ooh, it's looking good for the Ogre. That's only 3 hits. 3 up saves, need to pass all 3 of these or the Ogre dies. No, and there's 1 fail. So that brave Ogre does finally fall before the green tide. Right, so the units I've got left to activate are the 2 infantry squads. This one's pinned, this one isn't. And yeah, now you see, reading the rules as written for morale, these guys are pinned. So if these Goblin Walkers shoot at them and kill 1, possibly 2, basically they automatically fail a morale test and they remain pinned. So if I don't activate them, that's my understanding anyway. That's what the rules as written say. It doesn't say anything about if they're already pinned and they fail a morale test, they're routed. Certainly not as a result of shooting, that's only as a result of melee. So yeah, I think I'm just going to leave them there, pinned for now. I'll activate them last. So I'll activate this infantry squad and they're going to rush onto that objective. So I can at least be holding 1 objective. So there they are, they've rushed onto that objective. And the 2 units left to activate for the Orcs are the Goblin Walkers and the other unit of Goblins. And the next one will be the other unit of Goblins. Now this poses an interesting problem. They're there. I'm currently on that objective and technically I don't count as having captured that objective until the end of the turn. So the Orcs technically still hold it. They also hold this one and they hold this one. So yeah, they currently hold all 3. So the Goblins, not entirely sure what they would do. Right, so the decision tree says if there's no objectives that are not under the control, they should advance towards the nearest enemy unit and shoot if possible. So they would advance towards this infantry squad and shoot them. However, as I say, that then means they're moving away from this objective. So what I'm going to do, again, dice roll. On a 4, 5, 6, they're going for this infantry squad. On a 1, 2, 3, they're heading back to objective 1. I think that's fair. They're heading back to objective 1, so they will rush back towards objective 1. So like something out of some bizarre cartoon, the Goblins have realised, oh, them sneaky gits are sneaking up behind us. If you're playing Goblins and you're not doing silly voices, you're doing it wrong. Right, so they've rushed back this way towards objective 1, towards the sneaky gits who are sneaking up behind them and pinching their loot. So the only thing I can do is to activate this infantry squad and remove the pin. I've been using these yellow dice, I've got some pin markers, but never mind. And then the only unit left to activate for the Orcs is the Goblin Walkers. So again, strictly speaking, would they shoot at that infantry squad, or would they Benny Hill over towards objective 1? Now in their case, as I say, they've been trying to shoot at these gits the entire game. So I think in their case, it makes sense for them to just shoot at that infantry squad. So 2 shots from the missile launchers, rocket launchers, hitting on 4s. 1 hit, save on a 6, doesn't save. So that's a dead infantryman. So another leadership test to see if they get pinned again. 4 up. And this time they're fine. Cool, that commander, he's really rallying the men. Yes, we've taken casualties, but fight on. The end is in sight. Or worse to that effect, something probably much more inspiring than that. So at the end of turn 3, we hold objective 1. We contest objective 2, and we've lost objective 3. We've got 4 units left, so the artillery piece is still in good condition, but we've got goblins and jetpack orcs bearing down on it. This infantry squad is at less than half health, and we've still got orcs and goblin walkers. The tank is still smoking and yeah, it's got 4 wounds left. And then this infantry squad is still, is it at full strength? it's still pretty healthy. Yeah, we've got a full unit of goblins, 2 full units of goblins, 3 jetpack orcs, a virtually unscratched pair of Goblin Walkers, and those 3 orcs. Now, HDF finished activating first in turn 2, so going into turn 3, they will activate first. And yeah, I've still got decisions to make, because those orcs are now no longer pinned. So that infantry squad is in a bit dire straits. Those Goblin Walkers are still pretty healthy and could fire at the tank, which is only on 4 wounds. And this is in peril from this lot over here. So yeah, again, decisions to be made as we go into turn 4. Right, it's the last turn of the game. We're in turn 4, and I think we've lost that objective. This can't get close enough to it to count as having captured it. So it's going to rely on us taking this objective and this objective. And I don't know whether to use the infantry squad first to try and kill off the goblins over there, or use the mortar to fire in and take out those orcs. If again we were using standard AI rules, the most likely unit to activate would be these goblins, because they're in 1-2, everything else is in 3-4, there's nothing in 5-6. So if we were to roll a 5 or a 6, it would go back round to this sector to activate, and it's these goblins that are closest to an uncontrolled objective, i.e. this one, because this one's contested. So that would be the unit most likely to activate, so I'd simply shoot them. But I've got no idea what unit's going to activate, so I don't know. The next most likely unit to activate would be these orcs, because they're in the centre and they would yeah, they're closest to an uncontrolled objective, so they would activate and just simply shoot them, or possibly even charge them. Yeah, they're more likely to charge, aren't they, because they're a hybrid unit. So it's a lot easier to predict what would happen using the standard AI rules, but I've got no idea which unit's going to activate because we're using random cards. So, but yeah, over here, because we're using cards, it could be these guys that activate, and they could, although to be fair, they wouldn't be able to get to the objective. So they might rush onto the objective, or they might just advance and shoot those infantry. But yeah, anyway, what I think I'm going to do is activate the mortar, put the heavy flamethrower into the goblins, because we may as well. Although it could move, couldn't it? It could move round this way. But no, it wouldn't get the heavy flamer in range of anything, I don't think. Or could it? Yeah, after all that 2.5 minutes of waffle, let's see what happens if we move it. Right, so if it moves, it will end up here-ish, and that means that the heavy flamer can target the walkers. So that'll be 6 shots hitting on 4s with AP -1. However, because it moves, the mortars are indirect, which means they'll be hitting on 5s instead of 4s. So I think we'll stick with plan A. It can stay there as a roadblock, and put the heavy flamer into the goblins and the mortar into those orcs. Yeah, we'll do that, rightly or wrongly. Heavy flamethrower into the goblins, 6 shots hitting on 4s. 4 hits. They need 6s to save. 1 of them saves, 3 of them die, so they're not going to be pinned. And then we've got 4 shots going into those orcs, hitting on 4s. That's 2 hit. So that becomes 6 hits. 5s to save. Yep, that's those all gone. It's turn 4 and those are the first goblins to die. Yeah, crazy, innit? Right, first unit to activate for the orcs. The deck has been shuffled. Unit number 5, which is the goblins that just got flamed. Now the initial urge was to advance them forwards and shoot at the mortar. However, there's now an uncontrolled objective, which means they would head towards the uncontrolled objective. So they rushed towards that, and they've gone around the rock, which I think is quite thematic. They've just taken a blast from a heavy flamethrower, so they're running away behind the rock. So yeah, heading towards this objective. So I quite like that. I think that's quite thematic. Right, so on to my activation. I think I'm going to have to activate the tank and try and do some damage to these walkers, because yeah, it's going to have to move towards that objective in case this infantry squad gets pinned. I need that objective. It is the most important one. Although equally, these guys could get pinned. So do I take out the goblins? I don't know. Decisions. I suppose we have got backup. The tank can contest that objective if these guys die. So yeah, we'll go for this infantry squad. They'll consolidate their position on that objective. The commander will issue the take aim order to shoot at the goblins. So the infantry squad have formed orderly ranks, and the commander is issuing the order to fire with volleys, taking the aim. And we'll start with flamethrower. 6 shots, hitting on 4s. That's pretty good. 4 hits. 6 save. Drop that. Okay, so that's 3 dead orcs. Goblins. 1 shot from his pistol. That's a hit, because he's quality 4 and he gets +1. 6 to save. That one saves. There's a goblin somewhere going, "Oi, that was my head." Right. And then 9 shots from the assault rifles. Only 2 miss. 6 is to save. That's 1 save, so that's another 3 dead goblins. No, 6 dead goblins. Somebody can't count. That's me. So after the dust settles, there's 1 goblin staring at this infantry squad. He needs to take a leadership test, morale test. 6 up. That goblin's running away, and I don't blame him. Right, with that, we are now in with a chance. We hold that objective, nothing else can get to it. The orcs hold that objective, and I can't get to it. It all comes down to the centre. The next unit to activate will be the jetpack orcs. Now I know, because I measured it earlier, these guys are out of charge range of this. But they can fly. Yeah, so, but even if they hopped up here, they wouldn't be in range to shoot at them, I don't think. Let's do some measuring and find out what they're going to do. It's always struck me as odd that these guys don't get the fast keyword. They just get fly and then move normal 6 inches. So the furthest they can get is there by rushing, where that 6 is. So they then wouldn't be able to shoot at that. They could advance this way and put 3 pistol shots into this, but there's no point. So I think we will just hop them up there, because technically that's what they're supposed to do. They're supposed to rush towards the nearest uncontrolled objective, so we'll put them up there. Right, that just leaves 1 unit left to activate for the goblins. I can say goblins now, there's more goblins on the table than there are orcs. Yeah, so it's just the Goblin Walkers. So I've got the tank, this infantry squad. I think we activate the tank and we nudge it up close to that objective. It's a bit gamey, but it is a game, so why not be gamey? Nudge it up to that objective, keeping 3 inches away from it, and effectively use that infantry squad as a human shield. So it will be the closest unit to the Goblin Walkers. It won't be activated, so whichever priority rules we use, that's the one that's going to get shot at. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. So hopefully the tank will survive on that objective, and let's see if we can't kill off 1, ideally 2, but that's pushing it a bit. Goblin Walkers. We need the guns to work. Main gun. Hitting, emphasising hitting, on a 4, 5 or 6. It hit! Now, because it doesn't happen very often, I should really check the stats to see what it does. It does blast 6 AP3. That's what it does. So that's 6 hits at AP3, but then do 1 damage each. So this will be 5 up saves. You watch all these 5s and 6s now. Oh no, there's 1 5. So that's 5 damage. We'll kill off the first walker. So far, so good. Next up, 1 shot from the laser cannon in the hull. That hits as well. AP3, 5 up save. Oh, that one saves. Right. Come back. 6 shots from the heavy machine guns hitting on 4s. 3 hit. 3 up saves. Fails 1. It takes a wound. It's down to 5. That will be a morale check on that walker, because the unit is down to less than half its health. So 5 up save. Goblin Walker, quality 5 up. It fails. It's pinned. Yes! Finally, when we needed it the most, the tank came good. Right. Now then, there's cards, but there's destroyed units. So that is the Goblin Walkers. They are pinned. All they can do is remove their pin. That is the unit of goblins that got killed over there. And that is the unit of orcs that got killed at the beginning of the turn. So that will be a victory for the Human Defence Force. And that was a hard fought game, I think you'll agree. So we control objective 2 and objective 1. The orcs control objective 3. So for a 1250 point aside game, that is probably the closest game I can, certainly the closest game I can remember playing for ever. Yeah, that random activation does make a really big difference, because you can't predict what's going to happen. You just have to sit there and make strategic choices rather than try and make gamey choices. So I'm going to say that the card system is a success for me, and I'm going to do it again a few more times. I don't know if you can hear the siren in the background, that's annoying, but I'm not going to re-record this bit. So yeah, that was a lot of fun. And by no means was that a walkover. That infantry squad is nearly dead. I did lose all my ogres. The tank is nearly dead, and there's a couple of instances where the tank could have been killed. Yeah, that's still at full health. So yeah, it did come down to the last activation of mine on the last turn of the game. If that tank had whiffed, things could have been different over here, I think, possibly. But yeah, for it to come down to the last turn of the game, and if the last couple of activations of the turn, yeah, for me, I'm impressed with that. I think that works. And you see some of the other bat reps that I've done where it's me up against the standard AI rules, and it is a bit of a walkover. And even using a larger army for the AI as a handicap for myself, yeah, that didn't really make much difference. But this, I think, works. You get a more balanced deployment, so you can't concentrate your forces in one area and just run around the enemy, run away from them and capture objectives and try and hold the enemy off, because they're grouped up in one clump well away from the objectives. They're nicely spread out. You don't know what's going to happen next, and yeah, for me, I think that works. Let me know what you think down below. Gitano has asked me to feed back to him on how I think we can improve the AI rules, and I think that's one area that can be improved upon by using that random draw system for the cards. I think it works. Now, target priority, yeah, that probably still needs a little bit of work, but again, that's something we can work on and try and fix. But I like the card system. Please let me know what you think. But yeah, in the meantime, thank you for watching. Please continue to like, comment, subscribe and all the rest of it. Continue to stay safe over here in the UK. Lockdown restrictions are starting to be eased, but yeah, wherever you guys are, I hope you're staying safe, hope you're staying well. Until next time, God bless.